Um, this entry is labeled, I bought a new hat yesterday. Um, shall I be honest or shall I be sarcastic? In attempting to, or looking for the norm for the days, because it, there's such an extreme expectation from, and it seems like there's certain guidelines for certain people that I can't really um I can't abide by there being certain roles for some people and then other roles for other people, dependent on what seems to be secret society membership and whatnot. Um, the uh, I the reason I signed on uh, right now is because I saw a story about one of the Broncos talking about that he killed a mountain lion. Um, I just find that very disturbing because you never know if they're talking in code. Like, are they talking about a cougar woman who, which I'm not, and I've never been. And yes, my biological children's, my second children's father said or stated when we met, and he did have a driver or a passport that said he was only 13 or 32 years old. Um, 32 or 30, he was 12 years older than me, according to what may have been professionally created documentation, is what I'm realizing now. Um, because when I think about his appearance and the way he looked when he and I met, he really didn't look like he was 32 years old either. Um, so I don't know. I've recently come upon information about an organization called Cocaine Cartel Christians, and he might have been a member of the Cocaine Cartel Christians. I'm not. Um, I said may because I don't know. There's so much. There's so much insanity going on these days that I don't know what is, who's telling me the truth at any given point in time. Um, the the so when I speak about the story that I read just minutes ago about the Bronco, he might have been, like I was saying, speaking about a, a, a female who was a cougar. Um, it's all very strange. And when I met my second daughter's father, um, I had no reason to question what he was telling me, because the deception in my life, as far as I was recognizing or realizing at the time in 2007, was only within my family that I quote unquote grew up with, because I'm finding that the five members of my family never grew up. And even within that comment, different people have different definitions for being an adult. I don't find that attending parties on a regular basis, or even once a month, or even, a social life is, to me, it should be about being able to participate in congenial conversation, without the use of drugs or alcohol, or without the need to take any clothes off or anything like that. The So for him to, and it's not really fair, and maybe that's why I'm not mentioning the specific name, because it's not fair to I'm not going to say the word attack, because I don't want to send out any commands. But to call out his specific name, because I don't have any dedication to media, or as a platform, or as a recording, as having any integrity. Because it's like a craze. It's like you can see it. When I was younger, the global population wasn't as much as it is today, or as large as it is today, and so the feeding frenzy I heard about, but now I can actually see it. So I would just say that actual mountain lions, not as in cougar females or males, anyone killing a mountain lion is not seeing the bigger picture and or the value of the mountain lion. If you feel like you're going to run into a mountain lion on the trail, or if a mountain lion comes into your neighborhood, go inside. That's my feeling. And then the next thing you know, somebody will let a mountain lion in the hall of the apartments where I live, and I'll open my front door, and there'll be a mountain lion stand there with, this is the kind of responses you get when you show any concern or caring for anything, or at least it's my experience. So I feel like my likes are and have been attacked for quite some time, and maybe others have experienced the same type of thing. It's like yesterday. It's not really like yesterday, but I go out into the neighborhood, and I make all attempts to be congenial, and but there's people who like actually spend their day hunting people down who they they don't want to see get ahead, or even a part of mainstream, whatever mainstream is anymore. Who knows? Um, but it's simply insanity. I was watching a show about the Earth yesterday, and again, I have no idea when the show was made. I can't even remember if it was a National Geographic show or what. But the man on there looked like my former a former CEO of KB Home, where I worked in 2001 for a very short period of time because I was stupid. I left the job because I left KB Home because I couldn't find a need for myself in the organization. And who does that? And but that's seriously, honestly, why. Bottom line, there was a lot of other uh, like things that came into play, but I found myself, until they put me in the California division, I found myself sitting at a desk with absolutely nothing to do, and I'm like, 3 months into my job, I'm still coming into I think it was the Denver division I was first assigned to, and I would come in every day with absolutely nothing to do. Nothing. And I'm not really accustomed to being a person who just sits around doing nothing and collecting a paycheck. Um, and I wasn't then either, and I've never been. Um, Although, as soon as I say that, then that's the tag that comes in. Oh gosh, let's stick her with lazy and work shirker, and she doesn't do anything, and oh, kind of thing. Um, so then I'm floating through the internet with all these tags on me, and I'm walking through gauntlets of people, which are now separated from the long gauntlet of maybe 50 or 70 people, to now just two people on the street, um, who have set up a net, where they're tagging people, to the point. I mean, you can actually, it's frustrating that I get played for stupid and for a fool so much. Because when you bring somebody's attention to what they're doing, or when you bring somebody's attention because you recognize that they may not realize what they're doing, so I don't jump to conclusions, but I can recognize the extreme differences. Like I know when there's a network being set up around me, and the tags and everything, and with the catchphrases and the trigger words and whatnot. Um, and I really don't like using the word trigger word, because I don't have any weapons that other people have. And I don't believe in making money or setting up companies using sharpshooting teams. And when I bring attention to that practice, then I'm tagged with the guilt tag. And that comes from other cultures, whatever the culture is. If it's a corporate culture made up of international individuals, it's still a culture. And it's possibly a culture I don't agree with, because I don't agree that you need to have a sharpshooting team to create a successful business. Um, Now, back to the story about the mountain lion. Do I want or need to meet a mountain lion on the trail if I go jogging or or hiking? No, I really don't. And I know that I posted the other day because I saw a documentary just within the past few days about lions in Africa and the fact that lions might either be extinct already or that they might be going extinct very soon. The perception created in my mind via the narrator and the visuals in the the documented footage of the wherever it was in Africa um, is exactly what I said. So I think that nature is responding to humans who don't show any um, concern. Their stupidity runs from their penises or their breasts or their vaginas, and and through their cocaine Christian cartel cocaine connections who have access to high powered weaponry, which I don't, not that I know of anyway. I've never made co- like um nope, that's not true because that one guy had a high powered rifle under his bed and um he he took it out um soon after, like I don't know if he pulled it out that day to try to scare me or to try to I don't know what his purpose was, but anyway he then took it and took it somewhere else, I don't know where. And um it, so that's the clip. Other than the event that I worked with uh through food team, and again here I am divulging and being completely honest. um it, and I don't want to have to go through, because this is when I'm used for my innocence. Um, you know, it, it would be so wonderful if someone on one of these nature conservancy shows was actually um, serious about fighting against um, the destruction of the earth and nature and wild animals. You know, these people, they act ridiculous. I saw one video of of a guy who looked like my nephew, actually, or for whatever reason he, because he was saying Aunt Dawn. Oh my gosh, as he was walking on the trail and the mountain lion was coming at him. And the guy was actually saying, Aunt Dawn, get away from me. And or something to the effect. And first of all, it hurt my feelings because I wouldn't send a cougar out, a mountain lion out. I don't like to use the word cougar because of the association with the secret, not so secret society of women it used to be just women, and I guess men had their own name for chasing after young women. I don't know. I'm frustrated right now because I'm trying to direct my thoughts away from what's coming at me, like other people's guilt and what those people don't want me to say. Um, because there's another huge thing that, like, systems that are set up or programs that are set up for innocent people who they're trying to nail as they're coming through town. I've talked about it many times, and it's if I say it's no wonder, then I'm letting the guilty people off the hook, and then they run with that. Um, to not sit and watch, because that makes me look like the lazy person that they're on. Because I'm not sitting around watching. Um, um, to because of my experience as a homeless person and making all attempts to stay out of the goings on of the networks that blow in and out of town. Um, and it's not because I haven't participated for a reason, and it's not because I want to be the anchor for every uh, network of trafficking politicians and human trafficking networks and drug trafficking networks that have main goals of their own self-interest within legalizing drugs is what it's really all about, and other stuff that I don't want to have any association with either. Um, so it's really or I'm sitting in my apartment and I'm hearing, and the setups are like so obvious, and and they're never to the benefit of the innocent, which includes children as innocents, ENTS, in my world anyway. And so for whatever, I didn't even read the whole story. Now, if the mountain lion was, it just seems like people get to the media with justification of their actions that really doesn't make any sense. It's like, and become exponentially more ugly behavior in Colorado. Like when I first moved to Colorado in 1996, and people were living in the mountains with big, beautiful homes and it, like luxurious lifestyles. And I so sorry, I don't know what was going on in those homes, but they were actually complaining about elks coming up and eating their flowers. And I'm thinking to myself, if I had a home in the mountains, I would actually plant flowers. If the elk wanted to come up and eat flowers, now I'm not talking in code. Um, and there would be a picture of an elk outside somebody's big, huge, beautiful home in the mountains, and an elk eating the flowers around the house. And so go freaking plant a patch of flowers where the elk can go eat if you don't want them that close to your house. I personally would welcome it um, without and even the cougars. It's if you're living in the mountains, you're invading on wildlife, and um, it just is very frustrating. And then they come after you with PETA because you're standing up for the animals, or the wildlife, or they come at you from another angle for simply making a comment like, so what if the elk are eating the flowers from your garden? What is that code? Am I supposed to understand the word flowers as something that I don't, as an innocent, naive person, get the full concept of what you're trying to say? Because an elk to me is a huge animal that really is a fairly innocent existing animal. And they're targets of the hunters and the and everything. And there needs to be a game warden who is actually protecting the animals, not um not taking up for the stupidity of human behavior, idiots driving up, and to say I'm guilty is not really fair. As a child, I accompanied my Henderson family into the Tennessee mountains, and there were long lines of cars riding through, observing the bear that roamed uh, in the Tennessee mountains, or who had come. And then all these cars are stopping and either feeding the bear or observing the bear. And then who gets punished? The bear did, with a tag on the ear. Oh gosh, that's your third time, sorry. Now some freaking ill-intentioned ranger um has got a nice bear pelt to sell to somebody. I mean, this is the way things have been conducted. And I didn't see it when I was a child, or even, but it's the way people are acting. Like, it, and then they sit around wondering, oh, why is Jesus doing this to us? Whoever they is. If you can't find it within your at the time in 1996, a house that goes for $5 million today went for maybe $500,000 back then, and it was a beautiful home. My cook time is going off, but the point is, why did you move to the mountains if you didn't expect to see elk? I mean, or want to see. Um, would it be frustrating? Yes, but is it newsworthy to say, "Oh my gosh, this poor homeowner has got elk eating her flowers outside of her house. Let's send in the freaking cavalry to um, to save Farrah Fawcett from the elk that are eating her flowers." Oh my gosh. I'm sorry, Farrah, but I had to use your name because that was the house that I saw online before with the news story. I shouldn't call out Farrah Fawcett. I don't even know if she's alive. Um, but and I'm not trying to be funny. It's who moves into the mountains um and doesn't want or expect to see elk roaming through their very mountainous setting of the home that they built, claiming to need to be close to nature, or appreciating a person appreciating nature. Um, it's insanity. And I was walking in 2007. I've seen this or spoken about this story many times. Um, but I was pregnant in 2007. I went up to Aspen. It's the first time that I had been to Aspen since 1996, moving to Colorado. I spent a lot more time in Vail, but you know, and Evergreen. I used to drive up through the canyon to Evergreen pretty much every night for, gosh, probably a year or more. Um, and when in 2007, I went for a hike, I was by myself. I was pregnant, probably like 5 months pregnant. And 5, maybe 6 months. I can't remember. Um, and in my mind's eye, and that's a real phenomenon, but I got so far in, and there was hardly, I was really seriously one of the only people on the trail. I think I hiked in, and at the time I was 43. I was in really good shape, condition, physical condition, even though I was pregnant. So I didn't struggle with my stride. I kept up a good pace on the trail. Um, the I probably saw 10, maybe 15 people while I was hiking in. And and it wasn't like a really extremely rugged trail. Um, and I had hiked in maybe at that point like an hour at a pretty good pace. So I never paced myself. I never timed myself because I'm not a competitive person. If I go for a walk, it's because I want to be peaceful. I'm trying to connect with my inner peaceful self and with nature, not with, weekend warriors who are out, and I didn't realize to what extreme anytime that I had gone on the trail. Um, Not the particular trail in Aspen, but anytime that I went for a walk on the bicycle path, or into just neighborhood trails. Um, but in my mind's eye, I could see a mountain lion. Like, seriously, it was very clear. I couldn't see it with my eyes. I couldn't see, okay, but it was enough for me to think to myself, you know what? I see a mountain lion in my mind's eye. So maybe it's time for me to turn around and head out off the trail. I did not say, well, where's my high powered rifle? Because I'm going to find me a mountain lion. What is the sense? I was going through very innocently and naively and non predatorially. And maybe the mountain lion was watching me and seeing what I would do. And so the mountain lion, which had to be pretty close if I could see it in my mind's eye, that's a real thing, didn't come on the trail to attack me, because when I sensed the mountain lion in the area, I turned around and started walking back out of the trail. That's, in my opinion, being a steward, a good steward of nature and wildlife. Not a steward of wildlife, but a good steward of the earth and what the earth and nature has to offer. And I've talked about this before too. It's frustrating to watch the way people act when they see bear. It's like there's a long trail of cars, and there's a mama bear and her cubs crossing the highway or trying to cross the highway in the mountains, and the people need to get out of their cars and see how close they can get to the bear. And I'm thinking to myself, you know what? The bear is the most innocent, and the cubs are the most innocent on the trail, regardless of whether they're trying to cross the highway or not. Stay in your freaking car and move on and let the bear take the road, or take the crossing across the road, because the bear wasn't even walking. And then they said, at other times, like the guy with the mountain lion on his heels, wondering, oh gosh, why is this mountain? Maybe the mountain lion senses that your presence in the mountain lion's territory isn't of innocent concern for nature. And animals have a sense of that. And the bear doesn't even, by way of its own nature, eat meat other than, unless there's an extreme condition, other than fish. Bears eat fish and berries. And so, yeah, it makes me angry to see a story such as, oh gosh, I shot a mountain lion. Now, again, if that's code for something, that I don't know any, I don't have in like real time involvement. Was my second daughter's father supposedly 12 years younger than me, according to what he said and according to documentation that I saw in front of me? Yes. But I don't believe anymore that that to be necessarily factual information. I believe that he had access to people who could create a professional profile for him, including passports and whatnot. Because of everything that I've learned about everyone around me since then, and in the past few years. So I'm not even because even if he was 12 years older than me, I don't consider myself to be a cougar, because I didn't go out seeking younger men to date. And as a matter of fact, only 2 years before, when I worked at Applebee's in Bel Air, Maryland, and one of the cooks named Aaron was constantly trying to set me up with one of the other cooks, who I assumed without asking seemed to be younger than me. I said, Aaron, I don't date younger men. I said it to him again and again. And to be honest, or to bring even more attention to that particular story, is Aaron would be like very vocal and very like out in the open, as Kai, the cook he was trying to set me up with, was at the other end of the line hearing the whole conversation. as though he wasn't standing there. And it wasn't my desire or need to have a conversation with Aaron about going out on a date with Kai. Kai heard the whole conversation, but Aaron was talking to me as though he wasn't as though he wasn't there. And and but when I would say, Aaron, I don't date younger men, I would look down at Kai, and he would have not an expression on his face, but acknowledging that he hears what I'm saying, and that like he's already had some kind of conversations maybe with Aaron in the back, behind the scenes before that conversation took place, as though, Aaron, back off. I don't, because Kai didn't seem any more interested in dating me. He didn't seem like this super shy guy. Was he quiet? Yeah. But he didn't seem like he had an interest in dating me. And so it was very frustrating. And what I have to ask myself today, with all the information that I've taken in about an observation of different things, I have to ask myself, geez, maybe Aaron was a pit, but I just didn't even realize it at the time. And maybe Kai, the same thing. Not Kai as a pit, but maybe Kai was like wondering, it was like Kai and I were both wondering, where's Aaron getting off? Like, what? And so the point here is that I don't. So even if, which I don't believe that I believe now that my second children's father, Petra Sporta, had a professionally created identity. And if he didn't, then he should contact me and we could get some of this stuff sorted out, and I could maybe have a more settled psyche in regard to how much I've been betrayed. But even if he was actually 12 years younger than me at the time in 2007, I still don't accept a label or a tag of cougar, because I innocently and naively stood in a bar while I was mad at another man who I had long distance communication with, and was hoping to whatever. I don't want to go into that story. But the reason I had gone out to the bar that night, which I rarely go to a bar, every once in a while, as the expression goes, I get a burr under my saddle, and whatever, I was either extremely bored with my life or extremely bored with the fact that I could not was having a huge problem, a huge, time trying to attract friends into my life. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll just go to the bar and see what happens. And that's one of those nights. And my gosh, you'd think I was, so that's how he and I met. And it was a one night stand. But my children mean nothing, my children conceived on that night, April Fool's Day, actually, because it was after midnight, in 2007. They mean no less to me than my first daughter's, my children from my first daughter's father 20 years before, in 1987. who I had a long-term relationship with. Um, my children are my children. And what I was saying is that even if his actual chronological age was, I wasn't 43 yet. I was still 42, but I was going to be 43 in just like a week or two. And so that would have made him supposedly 30 years old. And when I think about it now and I think back on what he looked like, he didn't look like a 30-year-old. But at the time, again, I had no reason to suspect that he was lying to me. But even if he was actually chronologically 12 years younger than me at the time in 2007, I still don't accept the tag of cougar or the charge, because it's never been a planned thing for me to go out and say, oh gosh, I think I'll go get a younger guy today. Not ever. Not ever. And I didn't participate in a network of women who thought it would be fun, or they did it to get revenge, or whatever the motivation for the women who practiced on a regular basis being what is called a cougar. I'm not included in that group. So whichever way, if the story was posted as code, and I don't know if there was footage of him going, and I just think that the whole thing, the whole thing of anyone bragging, again, about going into nature to hunt or kill nature, and yet snakes and other things, they like expect you to have this huge affinity towards. I'm not saying this particular, but it's like the trend. And it's like, oh, that bear's a wuss. All they this is like what I'm like, is this what they're thinking? That bear's a wuss. Look, eats berries and fish. I mean, it's insanity. Hunting as a sport is insanity, actually. Um, and I've had friends who were, uh, you know, their husbands went out hunting and stuff like that. I just don't agree with it. Now, are you going to make a setup where I'm going to go hiking in 6 months innocently on the trail, and you're going to make a setup because you've developed a different relationship with nature because you've gone out and killed so many bears or so many mountain lions that now you have a predatory control over the population of the mountain lions. This is the way that you have to understand that people are thinking. And it is absolute insanity to try and to turn to make attempts, like as in at their entire effort is to go out and conquer an animal that isn't bothering them at all. But yet Gene F. Henderson II used to kick my dog from one end of the apartment with. Peter came after me, not as in real time, but the tags, the internet tags, the invisible tags of guilt. I was getting labeled as the animal abusive person, and I'm not. And I'm not abusive because I don't like pets either. I don't think it's fair to not even a dog. Now, if a dog is being rescued and you take it in and nurse it or whatever, you know, don't come at me with every freaking little scenario so that I'm like this Wonder Woman with the internet tags, or eventually maybe they're just hoping that they can come after me because I'm an innocent and not as predatory as they feel like I should be to participate in Armageddon or be chosen as one of the survivors of Armageddon. I don't necessarily want to be. When Jesus wants to take me, he's going to take me up. And that's no human being on earth. Has Jesus come through other people to me, human beings? Yes, he has. I don't care who tries to tell me something different. Jesus is real, heaven is real, and my salvation is real. And I didn't intend to go here with this, but it's so frustrating to try to get through to somebody. I don't care what your belief system is, sir. And I don't necessarily want to survive Armageddon with you, dude. If you got to go out into nature and freaking try to, with the whole purpose of invading an innocent animal space, gosh. And these are the same people who have weapons and have considered themselves to be protecting children, because human trafficking teams who were originally formed by Hollywood agents. I've faced reality. And I don't necessarily want to survive if there's an Armageddon on earth. I'd rather my salvation come into play. Please let Jesus carry me to heaven, because heaven is a real realm, as is hell. And my children, regardless of whose company they're in at the time of Armageddon, my children, my biological children, are going to ascend with me. So there's my, evidently I decided to be honest and not sarcastic.